everyone, Tara back, and today I'm speaking with Catherine Corey again, and we are following up on our last video that we did about being locked down during the pandemic. So we are talking more so about relationships in these videos and being in quarantine together. So Catherine, thank you so much for joining me again today, and I'm excited to follow up on what we were talking about previously. So the first thing that we have on the list is, what do you think or feel is the biggest problem facing couples being in lockdown together 24/7?
Yeah, because specifically we're going to talk about the ones who are together 24/7, right?
Yeah.
So, so there's a few things, and a few things that I see as being challenges. One is fighting, and the other one is loneliness. And I mean, that could sound kind of strange, but 24/7, those are the things that kind of get heightened. I'm either really lonely in the relationship or I'm fighting all the time. And there's a couple of reasons for that. So I wanted to go into those. There's one around our need as human beings and in relationship. We have a couple of needs: connection and a need for autonomy. And those are in conflict with each other, right? So oftentimes in relationships, we have a dance. We have time that we want to be connected, and then we have time where we want to feel separate in ourselves. And each member of the couple has different needs. And so I always think it's kind of like funny in the dance that sometimes one has more of a connection need and the other one has more of an autonomy need. So you end up having a chase.
Yeah.
Right? So one's chasing for connection and one's running away wanting the autonomy, or the other way around. And so there's conflict around that because neither one of them are getting their needs met, and yet we don't actually have a conversation around it because lots of people don't know that that's what's actually going on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The other thing is that as it's natural as human beings to be focused on negativity. So I think it was one of the other things that often will happen is you start to notice all of the things that bother you.
Yes.
Right? Okay. And I would say, particularly as women, because we have a bit of a perfecting nature, because we're the nurturers and the encouragers and the helping people grow. So we're looking at those kinds of things. We're looking at the things that need to be fixed in our view, in our particular perception. So if somebody's around all the time, our natural kind of, and I say this is natural because I hear it all the time, we focus on all of those behaviors that are bothersome, right? Because we want people to be the best they possibly can be, and whether that's a partner or a child, that's the truth. We do. So when they're around more, we don't get the balancing factor of them not being there and missing them. So anyway, the other thing that comes to play in here that is a challenge is the loss of our usual coping mechanisms.
Okay.
Okay. So we cope with our relationships because for the most of us, we're not clear on what we need from them and what we're not getting. So there's an angst around that anyway. And so we have an adaptation in order to cope with that. So we may need to go shopping. We may need to go to the gym. We may need to go socialize with girlfriends. We may so those kinds of things. Or we may need, like for me, I want to go sailing and I can't go sailing. Or I don't know for you whether or not you could go horseback riding or not. No. So those are things that we put in life to cope with, and we may be losing those, right? Or we may have over access to them. So if it's video games or TV or, household project, we may have more access to our coping mechanism or not. And that can cause a conflict too, because one of the partners may not have them and the other one may have over access, right? So those are some of the things that come out of those particular challenges.
Right. So what are some suggestions that you would have? So going back to the connection and autonomy thing, because that really makes a lot of sense. How might people manage that to get their needs met?
So one of the things that I initially suggest is to write out a list of activities that you like to do with your partner and a list that you like to do without them, and then prioritize them. Okay. And then once you've done that, share them. Okay. And negotiate which ones can get met in what kind of time frame. So are these the ones that would like to have met every day, or this is once a week, or what kind of time frame, and then schedule them.
Okay.
The other thing that I suggest is that you actually have separate areas in the house, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we're not all good at speaking about, you know what, I feel like I need to be by myself, or I feel like I need to be with you. So have particular areas that you identify as your connection places,
Mm-hmm.
and ones that you identify as your alone places.
Okay.
So a connection place may be in your bedroom, you're hoping, or in the kitchen, maybe something that, or they could be separate, but I'm just saying they could be that. There could be a corner, and I said even a corner, a chair or something, where if you go and place yourself in it, it's because you want me time.
Right.
Okay. And that you actually are aware of it, because there's a thing for us about stepping in and out of spaces, so
Yeah.
that you're giving yourself me time, or you're recognizing and acknowledging and respecting somebody else's me time,
Yeah.
right? Even though they're in the same room.
Right.
Okay. So that you're moving in and out of it.
That makes
The
sense.
other thing that I suggest on that is also to learn their love language. So if it's not something that you're familiar with, Gary Chapman has a bunch of stuff, but he actually has a quiz, so you can figure out what your love language is. Because I always say to couples, you might as well get the biggest bang for your dollar. And so if you focus on giving them what they need to feel loved and connected, it's easier for them to give you your alone time.
Yeah.
Remember what I said in that kind of dance, right?
Yeah.
So if you're delivering in their love language, they're much more able to give you your time.
Yeah. Yeah. The
So
love languages is huge.
yes, it is. And so if people aren't familiar with it, there are 5 that he's identified. And some of them will be familiar. It's words of affirmation or appreciation is one. Another one is gifts, acts of service, quality time. And that's quality time, not just time. So that's a definition of what that looks like. Because even if you're spending 24/7, and I've heard lots of complaints about that, doesn't mean that your partner actually feels that you're spending time with them, because
Yeah.
oftentimes time means attention and understanding, not just being in the same room. So that's another one. Physical touch. Did I miss one? I'm counting
Uh,
my fingers.
we said
So
acts of service.
acts of service, gifts, words of affirmation or appreciation, quality time, and physical touch.
Yeah. Yeah. And this quiz is really helpful, actually. I've done it. And so, yeah, so knowing how to give to your partner in a way that they receive, so that then you can also get your, get your alone time or your connection as well.
Yeah, so you're identifying it and you're making it qualitatively much better, right? So that you
Right.
move out of that dance, that chasing around, and going, this is what connection looks for, like this is what autonomy. And as an us team, we're going to support whatever that looks like in each of us.
Right. Right. And that dance can be so unconscious too, that bringing it to your consciousness and realizing that that's what's happening can save probably a whole lot of arguments, hurt
Yes.
feelings. Yeah. And
Yeah.
hurt feelings, right? Because if I can also see if someone's reaching out for connection and someone's looking for autonomy, then there's also that feeling of rejection when they don't get the connection that they're looking for, right? Which then can start a whole um flow of feelings and all of that kind of stuff as well.
Yes, because if I said to you, anger is an emotion we use to disconnect.
Yeah.
Right? So if we're getting really angry, it's looking at, am I needing to have time to myself, or am I being angry to explain why I'm not getting connection?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So because anger is interesting, it does a number of things, but in relationship, that's some of the questions to ask. Or is it, as I said before, is it the stress response, or is it
Right.
a combination of a number?
Right. Right. That makes sense. And so going back to the natural tendency of being negative, because I can totally see what you're talking about in that. And so being stuck together obviously heightens that desire, especially from a female's perspective, to be perfect, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
then how can we deal with that? Like how can we manage that in being together 24/7?
Well, there's a couple of things that I suggest, and one is to practice gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
So just generally, so gratitude about life, gratitude about your relationship, gratitude about your partner. So
Mm-hmm.
it's practicing gratitude on a daily basis, actually even starting with it, or even noticing that when you're getting really negative, okay, I need to move into, gratitude. I need to shift this so that my focus is more on what I'm grateful for than what I'm not grateful for. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's one. Secondly, is to really think of 3 things that you really like about your partner.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be about your partner, even if you have kids, if you're finding yourself in that. But 3 things that you like about them, okay? Write it down, keep it forefront. And before you have any dialogue or interaction, read them.
Right.
Remind yourself of them, because we can come from a different place when we're coming from a place of like,
Right.
right? The
Yeah.
other thing that we look at is creating a positive story.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So much of what we're hearing now in media, or even in terms of the uncertainty about the future, is about negative. It's
Yeah.
about what we're not going to have, what we're going to lose, what it's going to cost. All of those kinds of things is to actually come together and create some kind of a positive narrative.
Yeah.
Right? So what can I gain? What's the benefit of this? How can we make this work for us? How can we bring more of the things that we enjoy and we like? How can we get creative? How can we brainstorm around this? I mean, I had
Right.
a conversation with a couple this morning. It's like, how can you be playful? Like I'm really appreciating some of the things on media when they're talking about renaming the rooms in the home or even in the apartment. They're calling them vacation places, right?
Yeah.
To create that kind of fun. I said, you know what? Here you're at home, you can play dress up, you know,
Yeah.
talking to them about even the ones who are working for a little bit. I said, being very careful about dressing for work and then dressing for play and then dressing for your relationship, having date nights,
Yeah.
creating, restaurant, right? So bringing play and imagination and
Right.
saying, how can we bring all of the things that we really enjoy and love about life into this particular situation?
Yeah.
And I know that for many of us, it's not a choice, but I also, I'm an avid like sailor. And so people who spend months on a small sailboat on the ocean, right? I'm going,
Yeah.
okay, well, that's isolation, and they're choosing it and they're loving it, and they're right. Because there's an appreciation of their environment and the gratitude and the slowing down and all those kinds of things. So it's like, yes, I don't know how long, but taking it as an opportunity and living fully, as opposed to creating what I call like a waiting room and doing a Groundhog Day,
Yeah.
so that you can still bring a lot to your life, even in this particular situation.
Yeah. That's really good. And so the last thing is that you mentioned the loss of coping mechanisms, or I want to say like extra access to coping mechanisms. What can people do about the loss of their coping mechanisms?
I think part of it is to actually identify it, because I think for some it's non-identified. Let's going like, how come I'm more stressed? How come I'm more upset? How come I'm not feeling the way I usually feel, right? And going, and what do I do about, oh geez, I'm not doing that. It's a loss, but is it a loss, right?
Yeah.
In terms of coping with loss. So I think the first thing is to identify it and really name it and call it. Yes, well, I
Yeah.
definitely feel it. And then start to identify how it benefited you. Like, what did it do for you? What were the qualities or the aspects of it? How did it help you move? And I would say, because it's a mood changer,
Yeah.
right? So it helps change or shift mood. So how did it do that? What was it shifting you from to, right?
Hmm.
And then, I mean, even with your partner, brainstorm what you might do to adapt it, to shift it, to change it. So if I said to you, right, you love horseback riding, and if you did a guided meditation that was about you going out on your most favorite, awesome horseback ride,
Yeah.
not exactly the same, but it's a mood changer,
Yeah.
right? So for me, it's looking at those sailing videos and going,
Right.
okay, I can do that. I can take a few moments and imagine that that's exactly what I'm doing. So there's a great power in us as human beings is to actually imagine it.
Yeah.
Right. And particularly if we have other people on board with it who are okay with playing with it a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. And recognizing it and acknowledging that, yeah, it is a loss for
Yeah.
sure. Right. So even being able to engage somebody who is overindulging in maybe video games or TV or something like that to say, okay, if I'm somebody who I'm lost the outside activities, help me create this.
Yeah.
Help me be part of this so that
Yeah.
I can adapt it so it actually works for me. But part of it too is identifying exactly what it was and what it did for you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
That makes
what the concept was it something you did alone or you did with somebody else? Was it social? So things like, I mean, I had a conversation this morning about missing family game night. And
yeah.
I'm going, okay, so can we use technology to create, family game night? Or when you're playing games online with other friends, can you honor that the reason why you enjoy it so much is because you had such an awesome experience with your family around it?
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Well, you've given us a lot of good information today. And we are going to be doing another, having another conversation on the topic of loss.
Mm-hmm.
So that will be coming right up. But thank you so much, Catherine, for doing this with me, and we will chat again soon.
Thank you.